Hi guys, JP from FSiPanel. Welcome to this video. We are right now in Honduras, Tegucigalpa Airport, and we are using the Fenix A320, sitting right down here on the runway 20 right now, and we are going to try the RNP runway 02 AR. There's a couple of things very important on this approach. The weather today is not very nice. I'm using real world weather for June 10th. And it's 8 a.m. in the morning, so local time. So we are going to see if we can fly in this approach. So it's quite interesting. Before I forget, please subscribe to the channel. I have created a waypoint for you starting from MELVO, and we will see what has to be done to fly this approach. So let's jump in the cockpit and see what has to be done. All right, here we are in our cockpit. Default value, as always, when you want to use FSiPanel, you don't need to set anything. You just need to make sure your engines are running, your IRS are aligned, and I will select some weight here for the training today. So I go to mass and balance, and I will put, let's say, 120 passengers, a little bit of cargo, and then we are just going to take 4 tons of fuel. That's good enough for the approach. Apply load, and instant, now my aircraft is loaded. I am ready to start FSiPanel and to program the flight, and then program the MCDU and do the briefing with you and see if the aircraft can fly that well, and see if we can land. So let's start FSiPanel. All right, here we're in FSiPanel. As always, make sure you have the correct aircraft. That's the case here. We can see Fenix A320. We can see the airports, Mike Hotel Tango Golf, and the runway is 20. We said we would like to land on runway 02 as we would like to do the RNP runway 02. If we have a look at the real weather, we can see that we have light wind, 8,000 meters visibility. As per the chart, we need 2.6 kilometers, so we are good to go. And we have a scattered cloud at 2,500, overcast at 8,000 feet, so that's nice. It's as well above the minimums. 21/20, so this is why it's a bit hazy. Temperature is very close to dew point. And we have a QNH of 1017. There is no ILS, nothing on this runway, of course. So let's go for runway 02. Then you just need to import the pilot waypoint. So in order to do that, you can see the video now. You have the link just up there in your screen right now. And once the waypoint is inserted, is imported, sorry, just go to select fix, select waypoint, and you can just select the MELVO 7 DME. So this waypoint will put your aircraft around 7 miles northeast of MELVO to start the full procedures for this RNP runway 02. So I'm ready to fly. Just click validate, and that's all I need to do. Then we will click move aircraft. The aircraft will go in the air, and then we'll program MCDU and try to fly this approach. So let's click move aircraft. Okay, please stand by. Now we get the altitude set, heading, and FSiPanel is asking us to set the thrust lever to climb. So let's go ahead and do that.
Terrain ahead.
Here we go. So now we are not touching anything, and we let FSiPanel do the job. Once we are in position freeze, then we'll be able to program and to brief the approach while FSiPanel holds the aircraft position. So let's wait for that. It will take less than a minute, and we will be ready. So now probably the MCDU will be set just with the basic information, as we don't have any ILS. So destination and origin, FSI 001. We're going to have the cost index and the cruising 900. The weight will be inserted as well. And probably the first available approach, if there is any. So that could be set. Otherwise, if there is nothing that FSiPanel can find for the runway, then it will be just like that. Okay, let's see. We are coming close to 9,000 feet. We are waiting for the message here that the aircraft is ready. Aircraft is ready, that's it. Hold your brake for 3 seconds to take control. So we are not going to take control now. We are going to program everything. The first thing you see here is that we're in standard, while we should be with the QNH. So let's go QNH, and the QNH was 1016, if I recall that correctly. So we can cross-check that here with the METAR. Again, this is the live weather from this morning. So we have no METAR available there. Strange. FSiPanel is finding a METAR. Here I don't have the METAR. So 1016 was the weather from FSiPanel. So we are going to use that. And hopefully this is correct. It's very important when we are flying RNP approach So I will cross-check that as well on my phone with the actual METAR to make sure it's 1016. Okay, so now we're in position freeze. Let's have a look at this approach. So you can see on the chart, it's a category C airport approach. So that means you need special training. On top of that, it's a AR, which means authorization required. So not only it's a special airport that needs simulator training, but the approach itself, it's an AR. So not all airlines and not all crew will be qualified out of the box to fly this approach. So that's something to keep in mind. Luckily for us in the simulator, we can assume that we are qualified, and we are going to have a look at what are the important steps in this approach. So you need to be qualified. That's the first thing to know. Then the next thing you want to make sure is that you stay away from the terrain. You can see here that we have high terrain all around the airport, with the highest MSA on the west part, 8,400 feet, and 8,600 northeast. This is where we are coming right now, and then 7,700 at the southeast part of the airport. Then the approach starts at MELVO at 9,000 feet, and we are going to follow the full arrival route via Tango Golf 017, 5, 14, 13, 12, 11, and that is our decision here. Our minimum is 4429. And if we go around, it says that we have to climb and intercept the lateral navigation, maintain RNP track, maximum 175 knots, and re-engage LNAV by Tango Golf 011, because we have a tight left turn to avoid the terrain in front of us when we turn final. So we have to turn final, otherwise we're going to hit some terrain right in front of the aircraft. If you look on the approach note here, there is some very important things to see there. First of all, number one, as you can see, special aircraft and aircrew authorization required. Okay. Then the aircraft itself, on number two, you need RF and GPS capability required. So that's okay for the Airbus, and that's not good for the PMDG 737 so far. You can simulate it, but I will try it. I'm not sure about the result. Then caution, we were talking about it. Number three, the high terrain all around the place. So that's very important. If you look at number four, procedure is not authorized if temperature is below 14 degrees or above 52 degrees Celsius due to temperature compensation. So that's important as well to check. Today we are in limit. Number five, DME not authorized. So we will talk about it when we prepare the approach. So that means that the only source for the MCDU to compute the position should be GPS only. So we can disable that in the box. We will see that. And then we have the last step, number six. Well, before last step is VGSI and descent angle not consistent. What it means, the approach here, as you can see, is 3.5 degrees. While if you look in the approach chart, in the airport chart, sorry, you can see that for runway 02, the PAPI angle is 5.3 degrees. So basically, the approach descent gradient doesn't match the PAPI. So we have to be very careful with the visual indication, when we come visual. So quite interesting. So let's see how we can prepare this in our MCDU. So here we are still in position freeze. So let's bring the MCDU into view like this, and I'm going to do the setup. All right, so let's insert this approach. So flight plan, destination, and we go to the arrival page, and we want the AirNav 02. So that's the only one we have. As you can see, then we have the visual approach. So let's go AirNav 02. And then we just need to select VIA, and we are coming from MELVO. So FSiPanel has set us 7 miles, as we said before, northeast of position MELVO at 9,000 feet. So that looks correct. I can insert it. Okay, now we have our flight plan. What we need to do next is to program the MCDU and check that all the flight plans, the waypoints are correct. So we can see MELVO 9,000 or above. Then we can see Tango Golf 017 8,000. That's correct. 015 7,000. This is on the chart, and then we start a 3.5 degrees descent. So we can check that we have this 3.5 degrees descent. So up or minus 0.1. So we see 3.5, could be 3.6 or 3.4. It's exactly on 3.5, so we are good to fly that with the MCDU and the approach mode. And then we go to Tango Golf 014, 013, 012, 011 should be the next one. This is where we need to engage latest nav mode for the go around. So as you can see, this altitude is 4144 while our minimum is 4429. So we are expecting to go around anywhere between these 2 points if we are not in contact with the runway. Tango Golf 011, we should already be visual, or we should be in the go around, and then we will just continue to 010, which is basically very close to the runway. Then we should have the runway, and then we have the missed approach 009, 007, 006, and Melvo at 9000. Alright, so here this is checked. All the waypoint seems to be correct, so we can continue with the setup. So if we go to progress page now, we can see here that we have high accuracy. So you want to check GPS as primary source of navigation, and you want to see high accuracy. Right now we have an estimated RNP performance of 0.03 nautical miles, which is very good, and the required is 1 mile. As we are not yet in the approach, the MCDU is still 1 mile. This is the arrival route. Then in the approach chart it says that we need RNP 0.3. So of course I could already force it here to get the warning earlier. So right now my MCDU has 0.3 as the required performance set manually. So if this figure here goes above this one, then we're gonna get a warning from the MCDU saying that we are out of tolerance. If I go back to normal, we're expecting then the MCDU to change automatically this figure to 0.3 after we pass the initial approach fix. So we are going to check that. Another thing you want to check is the GPS predictive. Right now we cannot still do it because I haven't activated the flight plan, so we will do it later on. And one thing we could do in the data monitoring, position monitoring, you can see here that you have the selected nav aids, and this is how now your MCDU is taking the position. So GPS is selected, of course, and you can see here that this is the radio navigation, basically the DME. And if I click on deselect, then I'm complying with the point number 5, which says DME not authorized. So basically now I'm just telling my MCDU only rely on the GPS. So this is done. Now we can have a look at the performance to see what kind of auto brake we need. We see that we have 58.3 tons. So let's have a quick look about our landing performance here. So we are going for Mike Hotel Tango Golf, runway 02, it's probably dry. The METAR, we are going to refresh the METAR here, see if something is coming. 060 at 3 knots, 211017. So we have actually the METAR right there, as expected before. Now we have light rain. So let's go good because of the rain. And the landing weight, we are at 58.2. So let's put 58.2 in the box. And if we go, let's say medium auto brake, we are in tolerance. And that's good. So we have flaps full. And even if I do that in a wet runway, it will help a little bit. So let's go for, anyway, we are going to use full reverses and auto brake medium. So I'm going to use right away auto brake medium instead of auto brake high. Good, so this is done. Now what we need to do is check the nav setting. Now the nav setting, one thing you can do as well in the progress page, you can see this bearing distance. So what is nice to do always is to put your airport ICAO code and the runway you're flying in. And now you have a direct distance to the runway. Be careful, this is 18.7 miles if I go direct to the runway. Now with the whole routing, if you want to know that, you can go to the flight plan page, and once we are I will put MELVO on top, we will have the actual distance following the full flight. So we will see that in a minute. As for the radio navigation, this is very confusing. We could set Tango November Tango as an active VOR, even though it's not required. We are not using it at all, even in the approach or in the go around. But it's there, so why not setting it here? and having it eventually for the DME, but be very careful that you're not reading this DME distance, but rather that DME distance, or the one we have in the progress page, as we thought before, that one. Especially we are flying an RNP approach with no means of navigation using the VOR. Good, so now we have set everything. QNH we saw 1017, so let's update that to 1017. We might expect light rain, so the weather is not that very good. Let's see how we can fly that. So we have the auto brake, we have everything. So I'm ready now to activate my flight plan. One thing we might check as well in the performance is the descent. We are descending right now, probably with 240 knots. So we could keep that, or I could reduce the speed to 230 knots in descent. Let's try like this and see what happens. Okay, everything is good. We can go direct MELVO, and then we are going to fly this approach. Alright, so let's take control of the aircraft, holding the brake 1, 2, and 3 seconds. Now the aircraft will start moving forward, and the only thing I need to go direct MELVO insert. Good, now we have a top of descent, as you can see right there. Another thing you want to check is if you go to progress page, you can see in the predictive here that within 15 miles before the ETA, which is right there, up to 15 miles after the ETA, we do not have any problem with the GPS. So the frame is good. Should you have an odd time saying that, for example, GPS number 4 is out of service, you could simply deselect here your GPS number 4. Right, now we have the top of descent right there. So what I want to do is the destination data. So let's do that quickly. So 1017, the wind was 060 at 3 knots, and temperature was 21 degrees. Or minimum, sorry, what did I do here? 21 degrees and 0603 knots. And the minimum is 4429. Flaps full. Here we go. Perfect. So all done. We are ready for the approach. 9,000 feet. The next altitude we could go at Tango Golf 017 will be 8,000 feet. If you want to see that, just hit constraint. And if you hit constraint, you're going to have all the information right on your screen without having to look into the MCDU. Progress page, I was mentioning that right now 12.8 miles if I go direct, but the total mileage is in fact 22 nautical miles. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We are approaching top of descent, so we are going to tell the system manage, and I will put 8,000 feet and give the descent clearance. So now descent, and we are starting our descent to be 8,000 or above at Tango Golf 017. In front of us, we are getting an IMC. I have terrain on ND, so we are expecting a very interesting approach, and hopefully we will see the runway at minima. You want to be fully configured by the final approach point, which is Tango Golf 014. So at Tango Golf 014, right there, we should be fully configured. So we will start very soon to configure the aircraft. What we could do already is activate the approach, which is already done. Perfect, we passed the point. And we are going to slow down. So 8,000 we pass. Next waypoint 7,000. So I will give the clearance to descend now to 7,000 feet by Tango Golf 015. If you're flying in manage mode anyway, even if you will put something much lower in the window, the aircraft will not boost the altitude. However, it's a good practice to follow what you're doing. Okay, let's go flaps 1 now. Use a bit of speed brake to help this speed drop. After the 7,000 feet, Tango Golf 015, this is where we will start the 3.5 degrees descent. So I'm going to arm the approach very soon. So let's try to arm the approach now as we are approaching Tango Golf 015. We have final approach captured, so I can go ahead and set my missed approach altitude in the window. So now we just have to monitor a constant descent from that waypoint, 3.5 degrees, and we should go all the way to our runway. So speed check flaps 2. Tango Golf 014, we should be at 6776. And then we're gonna have the 3 degrees constant descent. So for now, everything looks good. Let's have a quick look outside from the passenger window. Quite a bit. It's cloudy today, but very nice view on the mountain. So it's quite an interesting approach. Alright, so Tango Golf 014, we have to be fully stabilized. So let's go gear down. Arm the speed brake. Flaps 3. And the speed check, flaps full. So now we are going to check lateral deviation, vertical deviation, Tango Golf 014. Then the aircraft will start its constant descent of 3.5 degrees all the way down to the runway. Remember that your PAPI is 5.3 degrees. So we just have to follow the localizer deviation, the lateral deviation and vertical deviation, and do not get confused when we become visual. Alright, so everything is done. Cabin is secured, and now we are going down. You can see the track miles to landing in the flight plan page. 9 miles. This is where it can be confusing, 7.7, and this is to the next waypoint. So be very careful with these 3 DME distance. What you are doing is very important. Okay, so we are continuing to Tango Golf 012. Lateral, vertical is all good. Weather is not perfect today. Let's have a look at the passenger view. They don't see much today. And Tango Golf 011 is where we should be in nav, should we go around. So we have to be very careful as well. If we go around, we should immediately check that nav is engaged or engage nav, latest by Tango Golf 011, and maximum speed 175, which is not a problem for us. So now we hope that we will see the runway at the minimum, which is 4429. Slight tailwind for now. So the runway is not in front of us, so do not look right there because you will not see a runway. The runway is in here, as you can see here on the map display. So we need to check for the runway. So we have rain. So the weather today is not the best weather. However, it is in line with the minimum we need for this approach. So we are going for this approach and see if we can make it. Okay. Here we can see the city is coming here. Bit of rain. - 1,000 feet. And now, as I've been practicing before, I can see the airport. And believe me, I tried with different weather. So let's see today. We're at minimum. Airport is right there. So we let now the Airbus do the turn and look at what she's doing. And look at the altitude over the cliff right there. It's going to be around 500 feet. We are turning final. Passenger view. Very close to the terrain here. Both sides. And for us in the cockpit, we have 400 feet turning onto the final. Landing checklist. ECA memo, no blue. So the PAPI will be wrong, so we just rely on our vertical deviation. 4 red. Autopilot comes off. I'm continuing the turn. Remember, the PAPI is a 5.3 degrees. So do not get confused and go too high. Just follow your vertical deviation. Here we go. 50 feet over the threshold.
50, 40, 30.
Retard.
10, 5.
And touchdown. Spoilers, reverse green, diesel. And we are just going to stop and vacate the runway at the end of the runway. That was very marginal weather, but did you see how well the Fenix managed this approach? And we just took the aircraft manually on the very short final. And if you have the latest scenery, I will put the link in the description down below, which has corrected the Azobo PAPI, then you will have this difference between the PAPI and the approach. If you use the default Azobo, then you will see 2 and 2, but this is not correct as per the real airport. So if you want to update your scenery and use the exact same that I have here, it's completely free. It's a very nice job, and I put all the information in the description down below. So we managed to land. If you want to check where is the airport, I have done it once in a fully VMC day, and at the minimum you check on your left. Here I knew exactly where was the airport. You can see these 3 points that look like a bridge, and if you look to the left of it, then you will see the hangar and a bit of the runway. So this is what you need to check and see at the minimum. If you have that, you know where you are, you can continue your approach. If not, go around and don't forget to immediately go around flaps go around flaps, so that's going to be flaps 3 in our case, positive rate, gear up, and immediately check that you have nav or select nav. Climb to 9,000 feet, follow the standard missed approach, and make sure you do not increase your speed above 175 knots as indicated in the missed approach chart. So make sure you go select speed and maintain probably flaps 175 knots. And then once you are above MSA and you know where you are, maybe in VMC above the clouds, then go ahead and go manage speed, increase and clean up your aircraft. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I will put the pilot waypoint download link in the section down below. And as always, stay safe and please subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys, and see you next time for another video. Bye-bye.
The boarding requested.
Cabin crew disarm doors.